and welcome back to my channel. How are you doing? If you're new here, my name is Rusty and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And yeah, I'm going to finish up me last one of the Cube trilogy, and this is going to be difficult. This is going to be... I've never had this much trouble with a video. Disclaimer, I don't dislike this movie. I like this movie. The problem with this movie is that it almost is beyond description, beyond understanding. It's very, very hard to do what I do on my channel, which is I turn movies into scary stories to tell in the dark. You know, I turn them into campfire stories, and I don't think I've ever had as much trouble trying to write notes, trying to keep track of a movie as I did this movie. I guess if you're some kind of calculus, algebra mathematician or something like that, this movie would have been a little bit more interesting, or easy to follow. And it's not that you can't follow it. I got it. I understood it. Of course, I had to make sure that I did not take my attention off the movie for any more than 3 seconds at a time. If you do anything while watching this movie, go to a bathroom, get something to drink, whatever, because it's not just the sound. You know, it's not like you can go to the bathroom or fix you something to drink and you'll just listen. No, no, no. You have to listen. You have to watch every little second of this movie, or you are lost. Which is probably why, it wasn't as liked as the others, because Cube Zero was a good return. Most people liked it, and of course the original Cube is fantastic, but this is just WTF all the way through it, and so let's attempt. And at the very end, I'm just going to break it down into like 10 sentences, but I'm going to try my best. It's sort of like a challenge. I took it as kind of a challenge. Listen, can I tell this story? Because the story is so visual. I think that's the biggest thing, is that this is one of those that's so visual. It's really not a movie that plays well to narration, and so Cube opens up like Cube 2. Hypercube opens up like every other cube. You start off with this woman in a room. This time the room are very, very high tech looking, and very, very white and diametrically and geometrically all. It's a very interesting visual style this movie has, as far as the new look of the cube and the doors and the walls. It looks like it was made like 100 years after the other ones, but we'll find out why. So it starts off like any of the others. You have this woman in the cube looking around, trying to figure out what's going on. She opens up one of the doors and she starts to crawl through it, and all of a sudden she's like sucked up in the air. So immediately I was like, okay, was that a trap? Where'd she go? It was like sucked up in a vacuum. It was very strange. So there, then begins to see a man in a room, and he's running around freaking out that he can't find the numbers, because if you remember, on all of the other cubes it was either letters or numbers on the doors. So he was trying to look for numbers at the very beginning, like he already knew. So And then there's another man and another room that the door opens and he starts coming in, and he, has a knife, and he actually starts to attack the guy that was looking for the numbers. And they keep, and this was like immediately. I was, if you've ever heard of jarring, Jarring, the visuals were very, very jarring. Like they almost made you dizzy and anxious. Everything was just going so fast, and doors were opening, and you were seeing people's faces, and then other doors were opening, and you were seeing different faces, and then over here you would see the same person that you just saw over there. It was very, very jarring to the senses, and so I was like, okay, wait, 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 calm down. And that's really what you want to do. And the first thing that crossed my mind was, I can see why they call this Hypercube, because everything is being really, really fast, really, really hyper, and it was kind of off-putting, at the very beginning, because it was nothing like the other two, and because things were moving so quickly, and it was just bam, 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 and I was like, wait a second, what have I got into? You need to slow down for a second. So, you finally get all of these people sort of get together, and now you are giving the introduction, like in the others, to, I guess, what you would call our group. You have Kate, the she's like the main one through the movie is Kate, um, and she meets this girl named Sasha, and she's blind, and so you have them. Then you have another younger guy walks in, because they, of course, like in all of the movies, they just start willy-nilly going through the doors. I don't know why these people don't sit down and chill out for a little bit and figure out what's going on. As I said in some of the other movies, the last thing that I would have done would have jumped up and started jumping through doors. I mean, I'd have probably waited till I got hungry or something. I would have been like, where am I? What's going on? But I'm certainly just not going to start jumping around. But so they're immediately running from room to room, and you're sort of being introduced to the other main players. Jared is this younger guy. He enters the room. Then they go into this next room, and there's a guy hanging from the wall like he's committing suicide. And you have Simon and Max, and then this what appears to be like an older lady on with dementia, Miss Palsy. So she appears, and you know, you sort of like that is the introduction to the team right there as everybody sort of culminates. And Sasha keeps talking about somebody that's coming to get them. Um, the isn't this that you then get the first kill? Even my notes are confused. You get the first kill about right now when the walls start like. See what I meant by visual? It's very hard to explain. The little parts of the wall like a Rubik's cube or something just start shooting out really slowly, and they're going to crush everybody. And so this guy gets killed. Um, the main scientist, the one that was hanging on the wall that they took down, he was like trying to commit suicide or something. So the teams keep moving through the rooms, and they start having little banter between them, which is, of course, supposed to be giving you, the audience, little hints as to what's going on. And Jared, once he recognized who that famous scientist was, starts talking about the work that he had been doing, and that was that he was working on scientific theories of teleportation, you know, and that's when Miss Palsy, the one that seems to have dementia, she starts talking about how the symbols on the walls in the middle of each room was something called a tesseract. And it sounds like something from Dune to me, but the tesseract, which is actually a type of cube that crosses dimensional barriers and becomes a four-dimensional cube. And that's when Max falls into the next room with this sort of gravity shift. So it was so different than the other cubes because they don't seem to be like these traditional traps. They seem to be very, very scientific and mathematic based traps. So, in this room, it sort of reminds you of The Exorcist 3 when that woman was crawling across the ceiling. You know, the gravity in that room is all messed up. Um, so let's see. They keep running across this number everywhere. 60659 keeps appearing everywhere, and it's like it was written on the scientist's body, and stuff like that. They then find out that Mrs. Palsy was the one with dementia. She was a theoretical mathematician who worked for this corporation called Izon, and you start hearing all of that through this part of the movie. That they're working through, Izod, or Izon is what's an Izod? Isn't that the little alligator shirt? But anyway, so they start figuring out that everybody seems to be, even if distantly, connected to this company, this Izon company. So a door opens and you see Simon, who was the crazy guy with the knife at the first one, and you see Simon and Mrs. Palsy, and Simon is like screaming about not to trust her, and he's going to kill her, and all of that. And like I said, this is all is happening because it's like you're actually seeing yourself. You can be standing in a room, and a door will open, and it will be yourself in the room doing something else, which is, because this cube is different dimensions, which means there's basically you. Multiple versions of you are running around in the different rooms in this cube. And it's almost like, different sections of cubes are in different dimensions. So, say what I meant by very confusing. So the team keeps, moving through all of these, and you keep seeing these various dimensional weirdnesses that are going on. And even if someone does take a kill in the movie, they show up later in a different room in a different time. Sometimes they'll be old, and sometimes they're young, like they are now. So Simon finally admits that his wife worked for Izon. So there's a cool kill, I guess now, with a geometric object attacks the team, which kills Jerry. Kate and Sasha survive and leave the room. Simon, Max, and Julia and Miss Palsy argue about, killing Miss Palsy because they are wanting to. She's just driving everybody crazy with her seemingly, with her seeming dimension. And try to follow along, but so we get to see Miss Palsy then killed by those same kind of room crystals that killed the scientist. Simon alone, Julia and Max are now alone. Everybody has been separated into different rooms, and they're also separated into different time distortions. I'm trying to get ahead of myself. Follow the notes. Follow the notes, Rusty, or you're going to get like really confused. So Kate and Sasha find a room with all of their bodies like decomposed, like mummified, skeletonized, and they find out that Julia, one of the other team members, was a lawyer for who? Izon, of course. And Sasha then admits that she is this theoretical legend called Alex Trust because all of them had been talking about this guy named Alex Trust. That he was the designer of supposedly some super secret government experience. And Sasha admits that she is actually this Alex Trust that they're always, talking about. Simon has been finding and killing alternate Jerrys for Jerry wears a watch, and every time they seem to find Simon through one of these rooms, he's wearing more and more watches. It's sort of like he's collecting the watches of each Jerry that he kills. So he's finding Jerry in multiple dimensions in these rooms and killing him and sort of keeping his watch as trophy. So by this part of the movie, he's got like 4 or 5 of them. And so Alex and Simon have a huge fight, you know, and 60859 keeps happening, and they start realizing that they are going to that the cube itself is imploding, and that's the reason why those little jagged crystals were coming out and killing people, and that basically it's unstable, and so the thing is going to implode, and that's what the 60859 was, is sort of a countdown of exactly when that implosion is going to happen. So Kate is waiting and opens up the final door and jumps through, where she then, as the cube implodes, and right before she did that, she had killed Sasha and grabbed something off of her body. And when she jumps through this door, which looks like it's going out into space, she jumps through it, and she ends up on in sort of like this giant military hangar, and there's these bunch of military guys. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you all about it in a second. So there's these bunch of military guys, and they walk up to her and they tell her, congratulations, you're the first one that's ever made it out, and asked her if she completed her mission. She hands them this little device that she had taken off of Sasha, and then they shoot her in the head, and she drops dead. They kill her. So now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you're probably sitting there going, did he just tell a story in like 6 minutes? 7 minutes? Something? You can't. You can't. So I am going to now break it down into a thing. Okay. The Hypercube, this Tesseract cube, is an invention, a sort of evolution. The other two movies, what they were, but this is something new. This is a multi-dimensional portal, and it's sort of like experiments in hyperteleportation and things like that, and that's what this is. So basically, here's what you have. You have basically a gamer hacker that was like worldwide known, named Alex Trust, and he was, known for these extreme theoretical inventions and theories, mathematical theories. And he worked for a company named Izon, which was then taken over by the military. Now, it turns out that the blind girl, Sasha, she was Alex Trust. That was sort of like just the name that she used. Now, as sort of like that Kate Bush song, Experiment Full, where, you have these, as usual, you have these intelligent scientists who come up with these theories and ideas. They don't have the funds, the resources to do it, so what? The military steps in and offers these scientists, the ability to experiment and see their work come to fruition. And as usual, the scientists are what? Just like that song, the scientists are like, well, we was doing this thing, and then the military wants to turn it into something bad, and we try to stop them, and we don't want it that way, and they fucking kill everybody and take it anyway. Well, that's the military. Why do you scientists keep doing that? you know. So here we have Sasha. She had come up with how to create a hypercube, a tesseract cube. And the military funded her experiments, and of course, once her experiments began to work, the military wanted to take it and use it for nefarious purposes, which should not be a surprise to anyone. And yet people seem to be surprised. So what she did was she took the device, the main component, and then she had went into the hypercube herself to escape the military because nobody can get her in there. And the military has been sending mercenaries on missions in there to find her, dead or alive, kill her or whatever, but they need that component. So this Kate woman all along was not an innocent victim. She was a mercenary from the military sent into the hypercube to kill Sasha and get that little device. Now, the other side, the anti-military, the anti-government side, they knew about this too. So they had also sent a hitman into the hypercube to kill her and stop the military mercenary from getting it. So they had, I guess you could call it the good side. They had their mercenary in there to stop this, and the military had their mercenary in there to do it. Simon was an assassin in there to kill everyone who would know anything about this, to stop it from ever coming to fruition. That's why he wanted to kill Miss Palsy, even though she had dementia. That's why he was killing Jerry. That's why he was in there to kill everybody, because they all had little pieces to do with this. Even the boy, Jared, he was just a gamer who had created some gaming mechanics that they used as part of the creation of this cube. So everyone that had anything to do with it was being disposed of in this hypercube. And you have these two mercenaries who were sent in, both which their missions were to get Sasha, to kill Sasha, or to get this advice. Of course, one of them was to get it and supposedly destroy it and not let the military complete their experiments, and the other, of course, was to get it so that they, even if they didn't have Sasha, they would have the main component. So, and they only had a limited amount of time. That's the reason why Sasha went in there, because she knew that it had not been perfected yet, and she refused to help them perfect it. You see? Following along, yeah? So, she was going to stop them from perfecting this thing by not only having the component, but also basically killing herself by going into the hypercube and letting it implode on her, because these hypercubes are not stable and they cannot remain stable. The military still needs to stabilize them. So if they're not going to have her help doing that, then at least they want the main component of the thing so they can hopefully find someone else that can study and perfect this thing. So the bad guys actually won, because everybody else in the cube didn't make it, and they're all dead. Not only that, but Sasha's dead. Everyone in there, including the good mercenary, Simon. Not that he was good. I mean, he was killing people. But the the bad mercenary, the one sitting there by the military to get the component, she did get the component, and she did return it, and her thanks for that should have been known, right? And that is they blew her brains out right when she got out and handed over the piece of equipment, and you're left with the you know how in the Terminator tree, when he turns into the liquid metal, okay, that's what it looked like, was this gigantic, huge military um, hangar with liquid metal because the cube had imploded. And they killed her ass right there, which is what she should have expected. I don't know. People in the military and the government and, law enforcement, you know. Yeah. So that's the actual story. Broken down into the simplest thing. Sasha was the creator of the Hypercube. She was given the funds by the military. They were going to use it for something bad. She decided to commit suicide by putting herself into the Hypercube knowing it was unstable and was going to collapse. The military had also threw everybody who knew about this project into the Hypercube to die in various horrible ways, which you see some. Um, Kate is the bad, Simon is the good mercenary, both of which have the same mission, and that is to get Sasha. Kill her, get that device, one to make sure it never comes to fruition, the other so that they can study the thing and at least not lose it completely. And they all manage to do it. The bad girl, the bad mercenary, manages to kill Sasha, get the device, return it to the military, who promptly executes her, and then the movie ends. And so there you go. Now, like I said at the beginning, this isn't, I'm trying to make sure I don't say it in an offensive way. This movie, isn't like, oh, well, you have to be really smart to understand this movie. Or, dummies don't need to watch it because you'll never follow along. Now, I guess there may be a little tiny part of that that's true, but it's not that you're a dummy. It's that if you have no attention span, if you are eaten to the bone with Twitter syndrome, which I hate, but if you are eaten to the bone with Twitter syndrome and you have no attention and you can't sit still and you can't handle conversations that are more than 20 words and you can't handle things in which you need to actually shut the fuck up and listen and watch, then yeah, you're probably not going to enjoy this movie, and you may even feel a little offended to tell anyone because they're like, I feel like I'm an idiot for not following this movie. No, it's understandable. You just can't walk away from it. You have to, like, there were so many times during this movie in which, I had to, like, go, hold up, pause. Okay. And they were, okay. Okay. I got it. So, it's just one of those movies that's like really, really, really attention dependent. Okay? You cannot look away from this movie. You cannot go cook dinner. You can't go to the bog. You can't, go fix you a glass of water and, like, just depend on what you're hearing. No, it's very, very visually and vocally, audio, visual. You have to pay a great deal of attention to this movie. Or go to Wikipedia and just read the plot before you watch it. That's one way to do it as well. Um, but yeah, so I don't dislike this movie. It's definitely the weakest of the three movies. I loved Cube Zero, and I of course adore Cube. Um, this movie, I think the execution was. I understand the story. It was very convoluted, but I understand it. 'Cause I just told it to you. So you can actually break down this movie into a very simple 10 sentence little explanation. But I think the movie moves too hyper. The movie is too hyper. Hypercube is too hyper. Okay? And it takes a lot to follow along. So you really, really have to watch it, pay attention, and I did enjoy it, after the end when I allowed it to sink in. I didn't really have a problem with it. I don't hate it. I would give it like a 6, which is really low compared to the other two. And it's because of that. I think it was neat. It was interesting. It's probably not something that I would watch more than a couple of times, or maybe sometime in the future you're like, let me watch that freaky movie. Now, people who like to smoke dope, I think, yeah, I think a pothead might could like, oh man, I see, I understand. That's real trippy, dude. I can see, somebody enjoying it that way. Um, and if you're an egghead, I think eggheads would enjoy the movie, trying to like, grasp it. But yeah, so there you go. Cube 2, Hypercube, was just way too hyper for me. I only give it like a 6, 6.5, 6, maybe 6. Um, Compared to the others is pretty bad, but I still like it. I'm glad I bought it. I wasn't able to show you the video because I told you I bought the Ultra Cubes on Voodoo, but I do own them. I do have it. And I did watch it twice because once I had watched it, I kind of like, okay, I get it, I understand. And then I was able to enjoy it a little more the second watch because I knew what the fuck was going on, and I could look for the little clues and the little things that confused me the first time. I kind of like was able to catch things that I wasn't able to catch. So it's an alright movie. It's not like, you know, terrible or anything. Yeah, so that's it. Cube 2, Hyper 2, Hyper 2, Hypercube. Um, and I will be back with the next movie. I'm going to do something really interesting that I found. I'm really excited to talk about that one. Not that I wasn't excited to talk about this. It's just like, oh my god, I didn't know how to talk about it other than just come on and do that 10 sentence breakdown. But I found a spaghetti western slasher. It's like, is there such a thing as a spaghetti western slasher? Yeah, there is. And we're going to talk about that. So I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you, bye. And I really thank you for taking the time, spending a little time with me, blabbering on about some strange movie. And remember, you are a very special person no matter what anyone is doing or saying to you. No matter what the world is doing or saying to you, you're the only one of you. And yeah, that's a good thing. Everybody wants to follow fads. Everybody wants to be one of the crowd. And if you don't have to. You don't need to. You'll be a lot happier if you're not. See you next time. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. Okay.